Hey, welcome to Wisdom Wednesday with Pastor Josh. Wisdom is the quality or state of being wise, it's knowledge of what is true, right, coupled with just judgment as to action, sagacity, discernment, and insight. We're going to look at what that means today on this edition of Wisdom Wednesday. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today on this edition of Wisdom Wednesday. Hey, I want to talk to you and continue our conversation, really talking about purpose and eternal things, and just a little bit more of an introspective week this week, and just sharing a little bit of some things that are kind of whirling around in my brain and my heart this week. And so today I want to talk to you about wise living and really what that looks like. You know, in light of our purpose conversation and our eternity conversation yesterday, I want to encourage us that, you know, that wise living isn't always what the world would consider wise living. You know, a lot of times, especially, like, I'll be honest with you, being a pastor is a pretty good case for the differences between wise living in earthly standards and wise living in godly standards. And so what I mean by that is, like, let me just give you a little bit of a story example here. Many years ago, when my wife and I began our journey into full-time vocational ministry, when we jumped into a youth and worship pastor position, and I remember telling our family, the people around us, I remember telling them what we were doing, saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to go to this really small place, and this place that maybe you've never heard of, and we're going to be doing this youth and worship role at a church there, and you know, we're going to be doing that. And the cool thing is that, you know, they're going to let us live in a house. That's pretty cool. But the cool thing is that we're going to be able to do this and really minister to these people. But the downside is that, you know, they're not really going to be paying us anything. You know, they're giving us a place to live. It was a church parsonage, which churches had parsonages at one time. Some still do, which is like a house that the church owns that's connected kind of to the church somehow, and for pastors and whatnot. And so, like, we began telling them, like, what our role was going to look like, but then they'd always ask us, well, how are you guys going to live? Like, how are you going to, like, afford to live, right? Because everybody's always worried about the bottom line. And we said, well, we don't necessarily know exactly what that looks like right now. It's kind of a volunteer position. I have, we have lodging and a ton of chance for opportunity, experience, and all that kind of stuff. And I tell you what, some of the conversation that we had as a family, like we do with her side, my side, all sides, there was some questioning of, like, are you nuts? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Why would you, like, shouldn't you? I mean, and here's the kicker. My wife and I were both working really, really good jobs. Now, you might not think they were good jobs. They were both in the fast food industry. However, Christy and I have both worked up to managerial roles where we were pretty dependent on people in the roles that we were in. We were both managing stores in Helena. She was managing a Dairy Queen. I was managing a Taco John's. And so we were, working quite a bit, but it wasn't a ton, but we were working enough that, putting in all of our hours every week and then some. And we were bringing in some paychecks. I mean, man, the money was flowing. And I mean, we could have bought a house real quickly. You know, we could have settled down. We could have, done all these different things. And in the middle of all of that, I know I said this a few weeks ago in a podcast when I kind of told my story of how I got called into the ministry and what that looked like and what we had to give up. But the thing is that when it comes to wise living, the world looks at that and they say, why would you give up a great paying job with all the benefits? And I mean, really, it wasn't a dead end job. I mean, you could have kept going. I mean, corporate was in your future. I mean, you could have done so much with that. You're primed for, like, whatever. Like, you had it made. But yet we knew that God was calling us to do something else. And so we responded by laying all that down and picking up the things that we felt God was calling us to. Now, there were some sacrifices we had to make. I know Christy, there for a while, because there wasn't any jobs open in the area that we were serving in, she had to drive back and forth 4 hours, 4 hours there, 4 hours back every week. So she'd spend 4 nights in Helena working, and then she'd come back and spend the weekends with me. And so she did that for 6 months. And then she got a job there, and then I got a part-time job. And so there's some things that were beginning to happen that way. But we felt God was calling us to serve there. In the kingdom mindset, it was one of the wisest things we could have done. It's always wise to say yes to the Lord. It's always wise. It's never wise to say no. It's never wise to drag our feet, because we know that the Lord takes care of us. We know that even Jesus modeled that. He says, I have nowhere to lay my head, but my Father gives me everything I need. Jesus knew that 401ks aren't going to really get you there. And maybe this might sound offensive, but I don't believe Jesus had a savings account. That doesn't sound wise to us, does it? It doesn't seem wise at all to not have investments and have, portfolios and to have retirement and have all these different things. However, sometimes godly living looks different. Now, am I saying you can't do those things? No, I'm not saying that. And even ourselves, we've begun to put, in the last several years, we began to put stuff in retirement little by little. But the truth is that wise living isn't always connected to financially secure living. It's not always connected to an overflow of funds and necessities. It's usually connected to a yes. It's connected to a ready yes to whatever God is wanting to do. Sometimes the godly wisdom looks like foolishness to those around us, to the world around us. And when we look at the world's wisdom, if we lead just on that, the Bible tells us that the worldly wisdom, it's different. It's not the same. The godly wisdom is what we should seek. And so my prayer for us today is, as we look at our lives, we would ask the question, am I living a wise life in sight of God? Am I saying yes to Him? Or am I choosing to live a wise life in the world's standards? Because at the end of the day, the worldly standards will not lead us to wisdom, but to foolishness. And at the end of the day, God's wisdom, although it had looked foolish to others, will lead us to look wise in the eyes of everyone. When Jesus returns, when we cross into that and see Him face to face, we'll see just how wise it was to live in a way that was always a yes to what God was calling us to do. And so I just want to encourage you with that today. Be wise in your living. Don't live in a way that's worldly wisdom, but in the way that's godly wisdom. Investing for the kingdom, not investing for our own gain. And so I just encourage you with that today. Let's live wise lives before